So this is Dennis with Home Rehab Pros. I've got a small project to do. It's a small bedroom. Somebody else hung the drywall. So I'm going to tape it and finish it and paint it. But I wanted to take this opportunity to show you how to hang drywall. And I'm not going to hang it myself, but I'm going to point out what they did wrong and a couple of things that they did right, and how that has anything to do with the quality of the job. So first, let's start with the ceilings. It's a ceiling about 12 foot long and about 10 foot from there to there. And so they did a couple things right. Number one, they hung along the part of the ceiling where the ceiling joists go this way. Okay, and that's exactly right. You don't want to hang the drywall on the ceiling with the joists. You want to hang them across the joists. That's the way drywall is designed. It gives its maximum strength and it helps it to resist sagging, especially on the ceiling. And so they started with their first sheet right here, right on the outside wall, and they brought it, and there's our recess right there. Then they hung a 2-foot rip, and then they hung another 4-foot sheet that goes all the way to the wall. Well, this is where they made their mistake. Oftentimes we'll tell people when they're hanging drywall to eliminate butt joints to the best of their ability. Do the best you can to keep recess to recess. And on this ceiling, they violated that principle by putting this rip in the middle. This is now a 12-foot long butt joint. Can I tape it? Yes. I don't want to tape it. I wish it was a recess. And how could they have made that a recess? Well, they start by hanging this sheet. Then they bring this sheet over to here, so it's recess to recess. And they put this piece against the wall with the cut edge against the wall and the recess to the recess. All they had to do was change the order of things just a little bit, and this ceiling would have turned out a lot better. Now, something else that I want to point out. Over here, they have a butt joint. The room was longer than the drywall. And what they did was they ended that drywall sheet all along the same joist. So you have a 10-foot long butt joint. Now you can begin to think about the challenges that I have taping. A 10-foot long butt joint this way and a 12-foot long butt joint this way. Whew, I got to tie all that in and make that smooth. So that's going to be challenging, right? Well, how do you avoid this? Well, professionals never extend their butt joints like that. This butt joint's fine where it is, but this next butt joint should be staggered over here somewhere on a different joist altogether. That way you're just coating 4-foot intervals of butt joints, and if one's going to crack, it doesn't take it all along the whole length of the ceiling, the width of the ceiling. So other than that, the screws, they look like they did a nice job. I don't know if they're all in. I may have to turn some in when I spot them. But just a couple things to keep in mind. Recess to recess. Stagger your butt joints, okay? And you'll do a much better job, and it'll be much easier to finish. Now let's talk about the walls. So let's talk about walls. When you hang drywall in a residential property, it's all wood construction, you really need to hang it horizontally. Some call it, you have to lay the drywall down. Of course, we always hang the top sheet first so that there's no gap at the angle. But then you have that nice long horizontal seam, and you just work that with your tape and you finish it. Why wouldn't you stand them up or hang them vertically? Like this sheet. Seems like a nice way to do it, right? Well, wood studs are not really designed for that. Wood studs can have irregularities. Wood studs don't move and flex. Wood studs, they won't adjust to the drywall as you bring the two sheets together. Steel studs, on the other hand, that's exactly what they're designed to do. The science of steel is to work with the drywall And when you bring that one sheet in and screw it into that stud, you bring the other one in and screw it into that metal stud, it flattens that stud up against that drywall, and it just makes for a nice recess. Wood doesn't have that capacity. So whatever you get with wood is what you get. And a lot of times, the joints, like this, are not really flat. They become butt joints, you know, even though that's recess against recess. So the best way to hang your drywall in a house with wood is across the studs, horizontally, just like the ceiling, right? Across the studs, not with them. And that just magnifies or maximizes, I should say, your ability to have a quality drywall job in your house. Now, a couple other things. On this job, they also decided to put butt joints here and here. Why is that a bad idea? Well, anytime you have an opening in a wall, you create stress points. There's a stress point along this whole side. There's a stress point along this whole side. And so when you put joints right up along that stress point, you maximize its ability to crack instead of maximizing its stability. So what would you do? Well, if you're hanging the drywall correctly and it comes to the point where you don't have enough to go all the way across, you end your sheet in the middle of the window. In the middle of the window. Or let's say this is a door. You don't do that either. You don't put it here at the edge of the door frame. You bring it up into the middle of the door, right? And that maximizes the strength of that drywall. It's easier to tape. True, it's a butt joint, but nonetheless, you're going to minimize the opportunity for that butt joint to crack because you've taken it beyond a stress point. So they did this all over the place in this house. Now, let me show you the horizontal seam and why that's a good idea to do it that way. So as you can see, this wall was hung correctly. Tight to the soffit, seam, and then they kicked this bottom sheet of drywall up to the recess. So you have a recess seam. It's going across those studs, and so it creates the greatest strength possible so that you're not having problems with the wood flexing that drywall or cracking that drywall, creating a butt joint in the seam. This won't be a butt joint. This will be recessed, and you'll be able to tape it as such. And you maximize the drywall strength on wood by going across those studs just like they did here. So that's the way you should hang on wood. If you're going to hang on steel, we can talk about that a little bit differently because steel is a completely different science where hanging drywall is concerned. So I hope this helps. I hope if you're willing to take on a little drywall project in your own home that you muster up the courage and you just dive in and do it. Get the tools that you need. Don't be afraid. And you know what? We would appreciate comments or questions. You want a little clarification, you want to know something else, just put it in the comments below. And please hit that like button. It helps us grow as a channel, and share it with your friends. And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe so we can see you in the next video. Thank you very much. This is Dennis from Home Rehab Pros.